to everyone, and thank you all for attending today's webinar. I see that the attendee rate is actually pretty high, so I want to thank you all for taking a little bit of time out of your day to spend some time with us here and the AD Solutions team at ManageEngine. I think the reason we probably have good attendance is because of the breaches, the attacks that are going on constantly on our networks, and of course at the root of everything is our passwords. So what I want to do today is I want to go over some different concepts around passwords, and I want to give you insights into how to actually verify your current password policy, talk about the different solutions that are available from Microsoft, talk about attack technologies to kind of get you grounded on why maybe Microsoft isn't the way to go for your password policies as a complete solution, and then we'll talk about some solutions on how to negate some of these password attacks. Before we get started, I do want to go over some logistics, some housekeeping items per se, and first and foremost, a little bit of information about me. My name is Derek Melber. I am the Chief Technology Evangelist for the AD Solutions team. And really what that means is I have the great opportunity to travel the world, talking with administrators, talking with organizations, just trying to get everyone to understand Active Directory better so that we can all be more efficient and more secure with our Active Directory environment. And this year alone, I think I've hit about maybe 10 different countries. I was down for a little while with a surgery, but now I'm back, and I just got back from Poland a couple of weeks ago, and I'm off to a couple of places in the United States here next week. So I have a great opportunity of meeting everyone. If for some reason you are at the same event that I'm at, I would love to meet you. I love to meet fellow administrators and try to answer questions the best that I can. I am currently an Active Directory MVP. I've been an MVP now for 17 years, both in Active Directory and group policy. And what that means for you is you have a direct tie into Microsoft. And normally when people hear me say that, they're like, that doesn't mean much. But let me give you an example. I was just in Warsaw, Poland, and there was an attendee at one of our AD seminars that was talking about moving from on-prem into the cloud with Azure, and he had questions about Intune. And I reached out to my MVP community. There wasn't much there, so I reached actually into Microsoft to the Intune team and was able to get a huge list of resources that are available directly for Intune. And I was told that if that wasn't sufficient, that I could then offer up the email address of my contact inside of Microsoft to the customer. So please utilize me whenever possible when you have questions. If I don't know the answers, hopefully I can get the answers for you. I do want to go over a couple of resources that are available to you. And the reason I want to do that is we work pretty hard here on the AD Solutions team to develop resources that are beneficial to you and really tailored towards getting you solutions. So one of the solutions is actually our blog. So if you come here to our ManageEngine website, hover over support and go to blogs, you will see that there are quite a few blogs here, and we actually kind of intermix them. But if you search just on, let's say, Active Directory, you can find a litany of blogs dedicated towards different things that are trending, different things that are hot topics, and it's really a powerful place for you to come. We blog once or twice a week. Usually the blog is no more than 5 minutes of your time. As you see here, the time to read usually is less than 5 minutes, and that's by design. What we want to do is make sure that we don't waste your time. So come in, read the blog. If it's something that pertains to you, great. If not, it wasn't any more than 5 minutes of your time. Another resource that I want to point you to is actually something that has been extremely popular over the last couple of years, and there's a good reason why it's been popular, and that is our security hardening site. Now, to get to the security hardening site, again, you come to the main landing page, you go to products, in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see security hardening for Active Directory. This site was built just over 2 years ago, and it was built as a solution for organizations that didn't want to buy into the technology that Microsoft had put together called JIT and GIA. You'll see here JIT and GIA. And these two technologies from Microsoft are heavy PowerShell, heavy infrastructure, and will require you to buy more stuff for your infrastructure. And we didn't think that many people wanted to do that. And actually, in the last 4 years around the world, I've only found 2 that have implemented JIT and GIA fully. So what we did is we put together this website, and if you go to the bottom of the page, you'll see all these security areas. Now, I have worked both with administrators and auditors, and what I did to build the site was I reverse engineered all the critical areas that we need to secure for Windows Active Directory, your domain controllers, and your Windows servers. And the reverse engineering is what created the site. So if you come in here to any one of these areas, you'll see that we have dedicated blogs and videos to help guide you through how to secure that particular area in your environment. So please come take advantage of this site. It is an excellent opportunity for you to get free information. Everything I've shown you is absolutely free. We put it together for you. And if I was on your side as an administrator, I would definitely be taking advantage of this information. Now, a third resource I want to point you to is scattered throughout our website, and you'll see this little blue box with a dummies book. And this dummies book was written just about 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago. And the book is really geared towards helping organizations understand why securing privileged access is so important. I think most administrators understand that, but often it's difficult to engage that with others in the environment. So what we did is we put together this dummies book to allow you, the administrator, to share it with others in your organization. So you can download it for free, share the PDF with as many people or have them download it. And it's just a great way for you to see or share information about why privileged access is so important in Active Directory and how we must secure it. So those are some resources that are available to you. Very powerful resources, and I think it's something that you can really take advantage of today and get solutions for your environment today. Another resource is my email address. Please email me with any questions. We have so many questions that come through. I thrive on questions and be able to get solutions to administrators and organizations. So please, anything around Active Directory, group policy, Windows security, really anything, just send them to me and I'll triage them and send them off to others if I don't know the answer. Finally, I want to mention our 2018 Active Directory World Tour. We actually have 4 stops in the next 2 weeks in the United States. We've been throughout the world. We've been in Australia, we've been in Singapore. I know that we were, I personally was in Italy and Poland, as I just said. I've been to Sweden. We've been all over the world. Soon in August, we'll be down in South America. But next 2 weeks, we are in the United States. We're hitting Boston, Newark, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and then we're going to hop down to Orlando real quick. These are excellent opportunities for you to engage with us one-on-one in person. Now, in order for you to register for these, super simple. You go to our main landing page, scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, and you'll see events. Click on events, and then you'll be directed to all of our different events. You could come in here and click on webinar or seminars, but you'll see here all of our events right here. You should see Active Directory in New Jersey. Here's Boston. You simply click on it. It tells you the information of where we're going to be. It gives you an agenda, and you register. Super, super simple. So please take advantage of this. This is our way of coming directly to you to try to give you solutions. And what will you experience in these events? The goal is solution-oriented talks. It is experts like myself that get in front of you and talk to you about how you can do things better and more efficient in your current environment. So awesome information. Please join us at these events. If you can't join, hopefully later on in the year, we will be in Chicago for our user conference. Hopefully you can join there as well. So we have a lot of things going on, and please join us whenever possible. But today, we're talking about passwords. Now, why are we talking about passwords? Well, we're talking about passwords because passwords, in my opinion, are the root of authentication. They are the root of identity management inside of a Windows Active Directory environment. I know that many organizations possibly have multi-factor authentication like smart cards, but the whole point is we still have to have passwords. And many times organizations, if they do have multi-factor, they still have to default back, oh, if the multi-factor isn't available, still allow password access, because we need users to be able to function. So what I want to do today is I want to talk about the Microsoft solutions. Yes, I know that they're seasoned and you probably know everything about them, but hopefully I can fill in some gaps. And I want to fill in the gaps because I want to lead up to this aspect of password attack technologies and strategies. And I want to break down for you what attackers utilize against us so that we can then invert that and actually secure the environment. And I want to talk about how to increase your password policy and the overall password security with a different solution that you've probably never heard of before. So when we get started, first of all, I want to talk about the default password policy. Now, the default password policy is configured in a fresh installation of Active Directory inside of the default domain policy. That's actually a group policy object. And what I find is that today, in the year 2018, 18 years after this was initially deployed, still today, organizations, administrators, and auditors do not know how to report on this correctly. So if nothing else out of today, all of you on this webinar are going to know how to report your current password policy correctly. All right? Now, if you go to your Active Directory environment, here's my Active Directory environment, and you go to Group Policy Management, and you go to the default domain policy, settings, security settings, the password policy, and you take a screenshot of this, this is the wrong way to report on your current domain password policy, okay? Let me reiterate that. Getting a report of the default domain policy is the wrong way to report on the current Active Directory password policy. Actually, if you run any report out of the Group Policy Management console on the password policy, that is the wrong way to report on it. Now, here's the correct way to report on the password policy. You go to a domain controller, go to the start menu, and type secpol.msc, secpol.msc. Now, by running this, it's going to open up what you see here as the local security policy. Under the local security policy, go to the account policies, password policy, and you will see that this is the correct current report of the password policy. Notice there is a dramatic difference between what most administrators run and what reality is. This is why we're going over this. I find that almost every organization, including Deloitte, PwC, ask for and report on the wrong information. Now, I hope this catches your attention, and it should catch your attention because even though we think we're doing the right thing, we may not be doing the right thing, and that right thing has been around for 18 years. This hasn't changed in 18 years. This concept has not changed in 18 years. So what I want to do from this point forward is continue to show you things in the environment that you need to verify so that you can secure your environment correctly. All right, so in order to run a report of your current password policy in Active Directory, you run secpol. Secpol.msc, that will show you the correct results. Excellent. Now, if we kind of break down this idea of the password policy, we kind of run into some questions. How many password policies can we have in a single domain using group policy? So notice the title of the slide, GPO-based password policy. How many can we have? Well, the answer is 1. Okay? Now, let me prove this to you. I can prove this to you pretty easily. Now, if I go back into my Active Directory environment and I go to Active Directory users and computers, you'll notice here, let's say that I have an OU called HR. And you'll notice I have a bunch of users in here. And a lot of admins say, great, I want to have an OU of users have a more complex or sophisticated password policy. So they go into group policy, they go to the OU, and they create a new GPO. Let's call this the HR Password Policy. And then inside of the HR Password Policy, they decide to go down to the password policy and set it up to, let's say, the minimum password length is 14 characters, okay? Now, if I do this, will my users, such as Sam and Maria, have to have a 14-character password? And the answer is no. Let me prove it. By proving it, I'm just going to expand the group policy editor. Notice right here is the password policy, and you tell me which type of object this affects. Is it a user or a computer? Let's go up the path. This is a computer configuration. This does not affect users, okay? This GPO affects computers. So if I have my users in the OU, users don't receive this setting. It's just the way it works. So inside of Active Directory, using group policy, you can have one password policy for the entire domain of users, okay? Now, can I link a GPO to the domain controller's OU and have it maybe apply differently? Well, I can link it to the domain controller's OU, but it won't affect anything. This is the hard and fast rule by Microsoft. The only location where you can link a GPO that will affect the domain password policy is in a GPO linked to the domain node. That's why the default domain policy has it by default. Okay? So if you link a GPO to the domain controller's OU and you configure that password policy, the domain controllers won't be affected. It has to be at the domain node. All right? Now, can you link it to an OU? Yes, I just showed you that, and it will not work for the users in the OU because the password policy is a computer setting, not a user setting. All right? Now, if we go back to the password policy, right? So we come back in here, we go to our password policy, you will see that we have the history, a couple of ages, the minimum, maximum age, length, and complexity. My question to you is, are there any options to increase this security? And the answer is no. What you see is what you get. Microsoft does not provide technology that you can increase these settings. Let's say, for example, you didn't want users to be able to use incremental passwords, password 1, password 2. Well, they don't have a technology to negate that. So by using the Microsoft default way to push out a password policy, we have significant limitations. Microsoft back in 2008 developed a new technology to help with some of these issues. And the new technology that they generated was called fine-grained password policies. But fine-grained password policies do not work like most admins think. Let's go over some rules. They're not configured in group policy. They're not configured by default. And the way that you configure them is you go into ADSEdit, or you go into the new administrative console. And through the new administrative console in 2012 R2, you can actually have a GUI for this. But it wasn't until the last year and a half or so that Microsoft even had a GUI for these. So it took 7 years or more for this to kind of take place. Now, let me show you where these things are in group or in your environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to type in ADSEdit. And through ADSEdit, you will see that I come down here to my naming context. I go to System, and here I have password policy settings. You'll see that I have one configured, all right? And it's through here that you go through this. It's actually a wizard, and you set these options. The options inside of the fine-grained password policy are the same options that you have through group policy. There's no additional settings. So if there's no additional settings, what's the benefit? Well, by using fine-grained password policies, I can have multiple password policies in the same domain. And the way that you configure these is you're actually going to set the PSO applies to option right here. The PSO applies to is a group or multiple groups that your users must have membership in order for them to get the setting. Inside of the configuration of the password policy, the fine-grained password policy, you also have what's called precedence. And there has to be a certain precedence level. You'll notice here the setting precedence that I have is 10. So that means there could be more that have higher precedence and some that have lower precedence. This is kind of middle of the road. So how many password policies can you have in a single domain using fine-grained password policies? I've never seen a limit. I'm sure there is, but I've never seen it. Okay? More questions. How are fine-grained password policies applied to users? Through the PSO applied to and putting a group in there. Now, I'm going to ask you even a more difficult question here. If I go to your Active Directory environment and I ask you to show me which users have which password policy, how can you do that? Difficult question, isn't it? Well, because if I go to SecPol, that's just showing me the group policy password policy. I can go into the fine-grained password policies, but it's not showing me which password policy the user has. But if you use a tool that's designed to do this, such as AD Manager Plus, AD Manager Plus gives you the ability to run reports on users, and through the reports on users, I can actually show you the PSO applied to attribute. Now notice if I don't have any PSO applied to, which policy do they have? That's right, the GPO-based policy. So by using the right tool, not only for the group policy password policy, but also for the fine-grained password policy, you now can flush out exactly what you need from the system. Without something like this, it's nearly impossible to figure out which password policy each user is going to have. It becomes very complicated. So you need reporting tools to help you figure this out. Now, if I use fine-grained password policies, am I going to be able to have additional settings such as incremental passwords? And the answer is no. The fine-grained password policy wizard prompts you for the exact same questions and configurations that are available in the password policy. So we have distinct limitations on what's available. Now, why are these important? Well, these are important because attackers know that we have limited controls over our passwords, and they're exploiting us. They're exploiting us with dictionary attacks. They're exploiting us with brute force and rainbow table attacks. They've even moved into grabbing hashes and tickets and reusing these and pass the hash and pass the ticket attacks. So what we need to do is we need to go in and we need to secure all these different areas. Now, if I jump back into my interface here, what I'm going to show you is a tool that does the majority of these. Now, I do not recommend you download this tool because I don't want you to get a virus. I was very diligent about how to get this tool. It is available for free on the internet. It's called Kane. Now, I'm going to run this tool. Has a couple of errors that it throws on Windows Server 2008 R2. But you'll see that it has a network sniffer and it has a password cracker. And in the password cracker, you'll see that it has a dictionary attack. It has a brute force attack. It has rainbow table attacks. All of these things are built into the tool, such that it's a right click away for attackers, once they get the information from our networks, to break into our passwords. So what we need to do is we need to defend against these types of attacks. Now, I'm going to show you a resource here. So follow along with me. If you go back to our main landing page, manageengine.com. Let's go to manageengine.com. I want you to hover over products, and I want you to go to ADSelfService Plus. Under documents, white papers, I just wrote a white paper, and you'll see it right here, thwarting hackers with better Active Directory password policies. Inside of this white paper is a link to another white paper that has detailed information about all of these hacks, recent hacks, year and a half ago. So what I want you to do is I want you to understand how attackers are breaking in. They're taking advantage of dictionaries. They're taking advantage of our environments. And what we need to do is we need to secure those areas. So what we need to do is we need to not allow users to use words in a dictionary. We need to allow or force users to use complicated passwords that brute force attacks can't break into quickly. We need to beat rainbow tables. We also need to beat pass the hash and pass the ticket attacks. Now, in order for you to get more information about pass the hash and pass the ticket, a couple of things that I'm going to point you to. First of all, go to our website, go to the blog, and search on pass the hash. I've written numerous blogs on this, guiding you through how to secure against these. In the end, this is not an easy pill to swallow. In the end, the only way to protect against pass the hash is turn off your computer. But there are methods, there are procedures you can follow to reduce the risk of pass the hash and pass the ticket. We need to protect our endpoints. I don't know if you've noticed, but recently there's been so much activity around the concept of protecting the endpoint. This is part of that reason. If we can protect the endpoint, the attackers can't come in through our endpoints and infiltrate our networks. So we need to protect that endpoint. I've written multiple articles on this, blogs and articles. I've done videos. I've done so much on pass the hash and pass the ticket to help you know how to protect against them. So what we need to do is we need to have technologies that are in place to help us defend against tools like Kane that have dictionary attacks, brute force attacks, rainbow table attacks, because it's extremely easy for these devices to capture passwords and their hashes, not passwords, but their hashes. So once they capture the hash, you'll notice here the LAN manager hash and the NT hash. Once they capture these, they simply put it over to the cracker, they right click and boom, they can attack these hashes. They don't longer have to be on the network. So using sniffing methods, if I have physical access, right, I can come in here and I can right click and I can add to the list from the SAM database, right, from a text file, from the local system. All of these things are possible with these tools, and these tools are still rampant around our networks. So what can we do to increase the security of our passwords? Well, let's talk about that. About 2 years ago, we built a tool called ADSelfService Plus. Inside of this tool, there's something called the enforcer, the password policy enforcer. Now, the password policy enforcer is not a replacement to your group policy or fine-grained password policy policies, okay? They work with them. This is kind of the result of that. And you're going to get a copy of my slides, and actually you're going to get a link in the next couple of days to a recording of this video. So don't worry about writing all this down. You're going to get the information. So if you do not have the password policy enforcer, you basically have either the GPO or the fine-grained password policy. If you do have the password policy enforcer, whatever you had without it, you still have, plus whatever the enforcer says. And the enforcer really goes into a high level to secure your environment. Let me show you what that looks like. So over here, I'm going to go to ADSelfService Plus. And in ADSelfService Plus, I'm just going to log on as an admin and show you where the configuration of the password policy enforcer is. Notice up front, we allow you to import a dictionary. As part of the white paper I'm pointing you to, the research has shown that many users like to use common patterns, so we also deny patterns. But when we really look at password complexity, right, using Microsoft, let's jump into that real quick. Let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go to my group policy editor. Right here is password must meet complexity requirements. If I go and look at the definition of that, it says it must be 6 characters, must have 3 of the 4 following categories of characters: uppercase, lowercase number, and special. How many of your users use special characters in their passwords? None. Guess what? I hear that around the world. Do you think attackers know that? Of course. So what we have done is we have added to this, giving you the ability now to say you must have a special character, and you get to input how many you want. These are the types of things that when you implement it in your environment, your password security skyrockets, because now you're defending immediately against the most common attacks. Most attackers don't use special characters because they know users don't use them. They're looking for fast results. And when I use a tool like Kane, and I go in and I say, I want to do a brute force attack, it basically allows me to set the character types, okay? And if I go in and I choose special characters in addition to the other three, it's going to take me longer to break into the password. So watch this. If I go in and I say this character space, including special characters, it says that it's going to take 3.32 times 10 to the 15 years, okay? If I choose not special characters and I start, it's times 10 to the 14 years. It's less time. Now, granted, I'm using up to 16 characters, which that's why it's given me such a long time. But you see my point here. It takes more time with more characters. So what we have done is we have forced users to input special characters, which is going to help protect against these types of attacks. If I can do special characters, dictionaries, and patterns, I really skyrocket my overall security protection. But I'm going to guess that many of you are concerned that if I do that, your users are going to have trouble. Because most of your users, when they try to reset their password or change the password or whatever they're doing, when they go to their environment, right? So let's go to this is just a desktop. So I'm going to come over here to Derek, right? Oops. And let's say Derek wants to change the password, right? So change password. Derek really doesn't know what the password rules are. If I just added in 3 additional rules, do you think this is going to be beneficial for Derek? The answer is no. So what we've done is a couple of different things. So let me actually get out as Derek and let me show you what we have done. We've gone in and done a couple of things. One is we are enforcing this policy through the GINA, which is the login screen. And when an administrator tries to reset the password in Active Directory users and computers, we also show the policy requirement. So we're really doing 2 things here. One, we are enforcing no matter where anyone goes in the environment, whatever the password policy enforcement is, and we're helping the user. So if I'm over here and I am now going to log on as Tom, if Tom wants to change his password, notice it actually lists out the details for Tom. Pretty cool, huh? So the idea is that we want to help users with their passwords. We want to help users understand the requirements. Now, this actually goes one step further. And it goes one step further because what we're also doing is we're providing for the end user an endpoint self-service password reset portal. Let me show you what that looks like. And the administrative piece, that looks like the ability for the user to go in and reset their password themselves or unlock their account. Now, what we have done is we've pushed out a GINA update. So over here on Tom's machine, okay, Tom, it's Monday morning. Tom had a rough weekend. Brain isn't working completely. Tom doesn't remember his password. Tom can come in here and reset the password because Tom is enrolled in ADSelfService Plus. No more calls to the help desk. There's no reason to call the help desk. Think about this. How many times have you forgot your Facebook password and you called someone at Facebook to reset it? I don't even think you can. I don't think it's possible. We all go through the same process. So Tom has enrolled. Tom doesn't know the password, so Tom puts in his credentials. Then Tom has multi-factor authentication set up. So Tom is going to verify who he is based on one of, I think it's 7 different ways to authenticate. This one is just Q&A. Okay, now notice that I'm also listing here for Tom the password policy, but watch this. Once I start typing, it will indicate if it's been met or not. Pretty awesome, huh? So we're doing a bunch of things. We're going through and we're helping the user to be more successful with the passwords. We're increasing the overall concept around password security so that we know that the password they put in is secure and it can't be hacked. So it's a full-blown effect of what ADSelfService Plus does. ADSelfService Plus has the ability to go down to the OU or group level. So now I can have different password policies inside of the same domain at this very high level. So the password policy enforcer, the self-service password policy, the self-service account unlock, all of these are key components. Soon, we're also going to have consecutive passwords where you don't allow that. It's just going to be another checkbox. It's just a check for us to make sure that the user's passwords are meeting good standards for password protection. But I have the best news in the world. I found this out this morning. Soon, we are going to have Windows logon multi-factor authentication. Today, inside of ADSelfService Plus, we have this level of multi-factor authentication. Verification codes and SMS and email, Google Authenticator, Duo, RSA, Radius, and Mobile Authenticator. Soon, in the next week or two, when a user goes to their desktop here, they're going to have an option, or they're going to be forced for multi-factor authentication at the logon screen. That's right. We, Manage Engine, the AD Solutions team, is going to have endpoint multi-factor authentication at the Windows logon in the next couple of weeks. It's done. All we have to do is finalize it and release it. Those of you that have ADSelfService Plus, congratulations. You just got a brand new feature. Those of you that don't, I strongly encourage you to do this right now. I want you to go out to our website. I want you to go to the landing page, products, ADSelfService Plus, download it, install it on a VM, get it all set up so that in the next week or two, when you get this Windows logon, you can test it immediately. I'm as excited about this feature as I have about anything in the last 5 years. This is absolutely stunning, okay? Windows logon, two-factor authentication. You have that at your fingertips in the next week or two, okay? So what we've gone through in this short webinar are solutions around so many areas where Microsoft hasn't plugged the hole, where Microsoft technologies aren't meeting the needs to protect against the attacks. The password policy and their controls aren't enough. The password policy enforcer increases that. But we take it 3 steps further, allowing self-service password reset, allowing the users to unlock their account if they are locked out, and soon, Windows logon two-factor authentication. We've gone through a lot in a short amount of time. I really hope that this opened your eyes to solutions you never thought were possible before. These are essential solutions that you need in the environment. If you have any questions, that's my email address. Please, I encourage you, go download the white paper that I showed you. Go download the product and install it so you're ready for multi-factor authentication at Windows logon. I also pointed you to some resources for hardening your overall Windows environment, as well as weekly blogs that kind of keep you tied into the Active Directory solutions that we're developing all the time. So with that, I want to thank all of you for your time. There was a group of co-workers working behind me answering your questions. I did see a couple of questions come through, and I want to thank you guys for asking the question, and I want to thank them for answering the question as we went through. I know that your time is valuable to you, so I'm just going to say a couple more closing words. One, we have a couple of webinars scheduled in June. Keep an eye out for them. I hope you can attend. Two, if any of you live on the East Coast, keep an eye out for those 4 Active Directory seminars that we have. Soon we'll be releasing the dates for the West Coast that we'll be doing in the fall and the winter for the AD seminars. We do have a Chicago-based user conference coming up in September. Please register for that if you're in Chicago. And if you have any questions, email me, Derek@ManageEngine.com. Email anyone else on the AD Solutions team. If you didn't get your question answered, please, right now, write an email to me and I'll try to answer it as the best that I can. I want to thank all of my coworkers for helping me answer questions and set this webinar up. I want to thank all of you for your time. You guys have been a great audience. I hope that this information was valuable to you and it's something that you can implement immediately. For Derek Melber, until the next time we meet, have a good day. Thanks.